This is important today because what we were able to accomplish was to save 100+ acres of open land and 9 lakes to create almost a destination for our entire city to enjoy. And I can remember that night when we talked about it, and we had all the folks from Palm Aire to come and fill the chambers. And it was, I made the comments that night, I said, you know what, this is what community is all about, where we come together and we fight for a great cause. And to be here today now to celebrate the acquisition that we went through, and thank you for the sellers to being cooperative for us to make it happen today. But there's really 2 people. It began really with our Vice Mayor, George Brummer, as he started off with this quest to acquire this property to make what you're seeing behind us today. And then followed up by one of my colleagues is Commissioner Barry Moss. Commissioner Barry Moss, I want him, as he comes forward, you know, if you dealt with Vice Mayor Brummer and you deal with Commissioner Moss, the tenacity is definitely there. And so, but I commend him and both gentlemen for their tenacity. But Barry really carried the torch through and made this become a reality. So his leadership and his dedication to our city should be recognized today. So he's not only a colleague, he's become a dear friend. And so without further ado, I'm going to bring Commissioner Barry Moss for a few words. And again, thank you so much for allowing me to serve as your mayor in the great city of Pompano Beach. God bless you.
Thank you all so much for being here. I have to tell you that as Commissioner for the Palm Aire neighborhood, this is the proudest moment of my 4 years of serving you. This finally, after 13 years of waiting, the lakes have become a reality. That's wonderful news. For those of you who don't live here and didn't suffer through the construction, I'm going to give you a very brief history of what happened. After Hurricane Wilma destroyed some of the irrigation on two of Palm Aire's 5 golf courses, the owners of the golf course decided to close 2 of them. That's what you see behind me were dead golf courses. Then after a while, somebody came up with the idea of digging lakes and selling the dirt. And the owners of the golf course thought, oh, it's not such a bad idea. We'll create some lakes. It'll make it nice for the people who live here. We'll make some money selling the dirt. And by the way, if you ever, next time you take off from the Fort Lauderdale airport and you take off from that new runway that goes way up high, think Palm Aire. All the dirt for that came from right behind me. The planning and permitting for this took approximately 3 years. And in 2012, the digging finally began. For the approximately 1,200 units that surround these lakes, it began as a dream of seeing something beautiful, but oftentimes people thought it was winding up being a nightmare. For 5 years, residents had to live with the digging, the exhaust fumes, dirt, traffic from thousands of trucks taking the dirt away, as well as the noise from those trucks and heavy machinery. When we were close to finishing the lake, the residents of PAC 4, for those of you who are not natives, PACC, Palm Aire Country Club Condominium Association, number 4, tried to purchase the lakes. The asking price was $1.5 million. In order to do that, the board would have to get 75% of the residents of PAC 4 to agree. And for those of you who live in a condominium, you know that you can't get 75% of the people to agree that today is Wednesday and the sun is shining. So when that failed, when that vote failed, and it came close, but it didn't make it, I approached the city manager and then the director of Development Services, Robin Bird, about the city buying the lakes. And after we had 1 or 2 meetings, it became eminently clear what the benefit to the whole city would be. Cities by Florida state law were required to keep a certain percentage of their land as open green space. And we were kind of bumping up against that limit. So what this does is it gives the city 103 acres of open green space, 9 lakes. You may not know that the city gets its water from 2 sources, a reservoir, an aquifer, underneath the golf course and airport, and an aquifer right under where we are sitting. So these lakes help to stabilize the water and help keep the intrusion of the undesirable Everglades water from coming into our lakes. Obviously, a recreation area, walking and cycling paths, a nature preserve, a place of quiet relaxation for reading or just pondering the meaning of the universe. The end result, after many years of planning and construction, is what you see before you. I know that many thought that it would never happen, but it did. I think most of you will agree, however, it was well worth the wait. I have to thank several people who helped make this a reality. Vice Mayor Brummer, who saw the vision, got the ball rolling, put in a lot of time, energy, and effort to get it going. The then city manager, Dennis Beach, who also helped get the process moving. Our director of development services at the time, Robin Bird. Darlene Smith and the board of PAC 4. And our current city manager, Greg Harrison, who, by the way, was able to negotiate a price for this at half of what the asking price was. So very clever. He's a good negotiator. Donald Trump should be jealous. And of course, Darlene Smith from PAC 4. And obviously the City Commission, who voted unanimously to fund the purchase of this lake. Thank you to all of those people. In closing, I'd just like to point out that this lake project could and should be an example for others. Golf courses all throughout the United States, and particularly in Florida, are closing, and they're being built upon with commercial and residential developments. We here in Palm Aire and Pompano Beach have demonstrated what good can come from planning and community involvement. I'm very proud and happy about what's happening here, and I ask you, in joining me, to congratulate you who all made it possible. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you for being a part of this project. I would now like to introduce Darlene Smith, president of PAC number 4, who's going to tell you a little bit about our dreams for the future.
Hi, thanks for coming out. Great to see everybody today. I want to give you a little background. Some of it's exactly what Barry just said, but in a different perspective. I'm going to tell you a little story about the lakes and my husband's and my experience. My husband Dave and I purchased our condo in Building 45, right there in the corner, back in 2003. At that time, from our balcony, we would watch golfers tee off and then got a lot of entertainment watching them find their ball in the rough. Well, today, we watch people walking and biking. This morning, a woman was doing yoga out on by the bench. And we look at the wonderful wildlife that has made the lakes their habitat. In 2005, as you now know, the golf course sustained a lot of damage from Hurricane Wilma. And the view from our balcony quickly changed to dead, brown fairways. And I know some of you in the group today remember that. And our community's property values plummeted. It was really sad for Association 4, Association 1, and those affected by the closing of the golf course. The owners of the golf course decided to dig the lakes and sell the field to the airport, as Barry mentioned, and I never take off without thanking them from those runways. The lake you see behind me and 8 others were transformed over several years, actually transforming the dead earth and building beautiful lakes. We now all have large, beautiful lakes in our backyards instead of a dead golf course. And at that time, our property values again started to grow. However, we didn't know that when the construction was done, the owners wanted to sell. Thankfully, Barry Moss and City Manager Harrison recognized this as an opportunity to increase Pompano's green space with the purchase of these 103 beautiful acres of lake property. This view that we see could have been extremely different had developers bought the property instead. The Palm Aire Lakes and Trails are now owned by the City of Pompano Beach and are a passive park for all of Pompano residents to enjoy, and we would love watching people enjoying the lakes and the trails. A committee has been formed, the Friends of the Palm Aire Lakes and Trails, and we're working to identify and connect all the trails in Palm Aire, and there's a lot of trails out here nobody ever really paid attention to. So we're going to The committee is working to publish a map of all the trails. One of our committee members, Terry, is riding her bike and identifying all the trails throughout Palm Aire. Terry the biker. She's going around and identifying all the trails. And the owner of the Wyndham Spa has some software. I don't know how he's going to do it, but he's making 3D maps that we'll be able to publish for residents and for residents of Palm Aire and residents of Pompano Beach. We are also going to establish a community gathering spot, something Palm Aire's never had before. It's going to be between the C14 bridges. I'm calling it Bridges Park. I don't know what it's going to end up being called, but we're going to have a gathering spot between those two bridges so that we can say, let's meet at the bridge and go on a walk. Let's meet at the bridge and do some yoga. So we're going to have a community gathering spot, which is exciting. And we're also planning habitats for nature. Barbara, if you raise your hand, please. Barbara's working on the habitats around the trails. And we've got some exciting stuff that we're doing for the animals, too. Residents will have an opportunity to also become involved with the Palm Aire trails because you'll have an opportunity to purchase benches and shade trees in memory or honor of loved ones. And they'll be placed along the trails in the areas where we need benches and shade trees. Or maybe you'll want to sign up for a 5K walk because I'm sure we're going to be doing some walks, too. This passive park started a movement in the entire community of Palm Aire. It's bringing us together. It's getting Association 1, Association 2, Association 12. We're all talking and we're working together and we're excited. Thank you, Commissioner Moss. Thank you, Mayor Fisher. Thank you, City Manager Harrison, and the entire commission that voted to purchase the lake property. You have made it possible, and I can't wait to see where these lakes take us in Palm Aire. Thanks again for being here.
This concludes our ceremony. Again, enjoy the wonderful